Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Someday with Jay Barsky. This episode's guest is clinical psychologist and burnout expert, Dr. RJ Verwayne. Dr. RJ has worked with thousands of high performers, helping them uncover hidden issues that get in the way of reaching their full potential. You'll hear us talk about some signs leading to burnout, her new book called Executive Burnout, and much more. So, with that being said, I hope you enjoy our Sunday with Dr. RJ Verwayne. Dr. RJ, what's up? How you doing?
Hey, Barsky, I'm happy to be here.
Well, I'm happy that you're here too, virtually. I know when we talked yesterday, and you're okay to share this if it's okay. I know you're based in Atlanta, but right now you're actually in Mexico. So, is this like a vacation right now? Or are you just like traveling and working at the same time?
Oh, I'm so glad you asked about that. So, we might as well just dive into it. I am the queen of self care and balance. And so, a few years ago, I decided to create paradise for myself. And so, I purchased the property during the pandemic in Puerto Morelos, Mexico. And so, this is my getaway. Like, believe it or not, I leave my husband and kids at home and I'm here for about 3 weeks at a time when I come. So yes, I am in my Mexico home.
No, I love that. And I know a lot of stuff you speak about is just like taking breaks and like not just like breaks from like doing work, but just completely not doing anything at all, just like lying on the couch and just like staying away from everything. So is that kind of what you're doing while you're there? Or you kind of just like still do some of your hobbies and stuff?
It depends. So this time I'm actually working. I'm working while I'm here, but as soon as the workday is over, I completely turn off. There are no mommy duties, there are no wife duties. The extra stuff is not there. And so I get like a balance of working because I love to work. Like I'm one of those people who I have to force myself to close my laptop and not overwork. And so I'm doing a little bit of both right now.
So you're like, as we were talking a little bit before, like you're a burnout expert, but like your career is actually a clinical psychologist. So what made you want to pursue that career?
So I always tell this story. I was in the fifth grade and we had career day. And I knew I wanted to help people. And then a psychologist actually came in and talked about the brain and mental health and all those things, even in fifth grade. And I was like, oh, that's what I want to do. And so I'm one of those people who I've always known that I wanted to be a psychologist. I eat, sleep, and breathe psychology. It's just part of my makeup.
In your undergrad, was it also psychology and then you just
Yeah.
moved progressed further? Okay.
I went all the way through. So undergrad psychology, I was the president of the Psychi National Honor Society. And then I went directly into a doctorate program, got my master's degree along the way. And I specialize in clinical psychology. So I was a really young doctor. I was 26 years old when I got my doctorate. I'm almost 45 now at the time that we're talking. And so literally, I've grown up with psychology. It's just a part of who I am.
So how did your career as a clinical psychologist lead you to being a burnout expert?
So, okay, this is the long story. You ready?
Yeah. Yeah.
All right, so here we go. When I first got licensed as a psychologist, I was the clinical director of a really large program. And you can imagine, like, as a young doctor, there are people who are older than me with more experience. And so I'm like trying to prove myself over and over and over by overworking. And so I got to the point where I was just overworking so much. I was super stressed out, super anxious, on edge. And I was like, you know what? These people crazy. They working me to death. I'm moving on to something else. Okay. So here we go. Hang on, Barsky, because it's a ride. And so the next place, so this was 3 years later, I went to the next place. I'm like, okay, I'm more seasoned now. I'm more grounded. I know what I'm doing. When I get to this place, I'm going to like really enjoy it. Same thing. I got there. I overworked. I stayed late. I used to, goodness, work 12, 13 hours. And
Mm.
I just kept going and going and going. And by this time, I already had my daughter. She was about 3 years old. And then I got pregnant with my son at the time. So I'm like 9 months pregnant, still working. Okay. So then finally, my husband's like, look, like this is a lot. Why don't you just do your own thing? And so I'm like, okay, I can do my own thing. So I opened up a private practice. Guess what happened, Barsky?
What?
I worked and worked and
Oh,
worked
man.
and worked and worked. And it was even worse than when I was
Mm,
working for someone else. So then I'm like, you know what, RJ? The problem is you.
mm,
Like the issue is you. So this burnout, this stress, this anxiety, yes, there are things that other people contribute to, but the problem was me. And at that point, I realized as I was building the private practice that I wasn't the only one like that. And that's how I started working with burnout, specifically for executives, entrepreneurs, people who have really busy lives, busy professionals, physicians, all those things, because we get into a place of working, working, working because it's all that we know. And so it ends up being an issue. We build these lives, work really hard to get to the top. And then
mhm,
once we get there, it's like, is it even worth it? Like, I'm always exhausted. I can't go
mhm.
anywhere. I can't enjoy my family. So, anyhow, that's my long story short.
When I went to grad school, I studied public health, and I went to
Mm.
grad school in Tulane in New Orleans. Real reason why I went there was just to live in New Orleans and experience New Orleans, and I was just so focused on, like, just hurrying it up and, like, just my two-year program, I ended up finishing it in 1 year just because I was
Wow.
taking twice the amount of classes. Meanwhile and I was working, and I wasn't really focused on what I came there for, was just to explore and, like, chill out and, like, enjoy the culture in the city. And now, like, years later, I really regret that just because
Yeah.
I was just focused on working, and I'm like you hear that saying, "Oh, I'll sleep when I die," or something like that, and,
Hmm.
like, just keep on working, and so that was in my, like, head the whole time, and I didn't realize the importance of sleep, and, I mean, now I'm 36, so I'm much wiser now, but so, like, I'm more, like, chilled out and laid back, I mean, if anything I really prevent myself from doing burnout. Yeah, I do experience it sometimes. I mean, especially like since I have a day job and then like I do my other things with the podcast, other speaking events, and like just doing comedy. Sometimes I can both worlds of my creative world and my day job can like come together and burn out to the point that I don't even want to like leave my place. I don't even want to have the windows open. I don't even see the light of day. Just because I'm like sometimes I'm around so much people and speaking so much. I'm like I don't even wanna talk to anyone, and I just get burned out from doing that.
Absolutely. And I know for sure that you're not the only one, especially those of us who have kind of two-sided careers. So I'm still a practicing psychologist. I have clients, I have a private practice, I have a specific caseload, for lack of a better word, but I also do speaking and training and TV and all the things. And one way that I prevent burnout is that I section off what I'm doing. I compartmentalize my tasks. So my brain doesn't have to work in overdrive and then try to figure things out. So, say, for example, Mondays and Fridays are my office days, like podcast days, speaking engagement days. Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday are client facing days where I'm only doing therapy. That's just an example. But that strategy really does help for those who have control over their schedule to compartmentalize as much as possible. And that gives our brain a little bit of a break.
So what are some of the warning signs of burnout?
Ooh, you said it already. Like problem sleeping. Sleep is so
Mm,
important to our brain. So I'm going to nerd out a little bit for a minute. There is a system in our brain called the glymphatic system, and so I did my internship in New York City. And if you've ever been to New York City, or if you've ever lived in New York City or whatever, you know that they have you have to move your car on opposite days so they can sweep the street.
mhm.
And I remember thinking like, this is absolutely ridiculous. Why do I have to get up every morning, move my car from side to side? Well, the brain is the same way. It is required. The glymphatic system is like a street sweeping system, and you require 6 to 8 hours of rest in order for that sweeping system to be completed and to not leave any trash behind. And so, one form of burnout is not being able to sleep, and then we get disorganized, we can't concentrate, and then that adds to the frustration.
I realized the importance of sleep. I think just last year I kind of just really focused on like studies of just how to sleep better or experiment
Yeah.
for myself on how to sleep better. Kind of like not even focus on other like sleep aids and stuff like that and just naturally go to sleep. And like one of the more really important things to not do before you go to sleep, and at least I want to say, I mean, you can speak better on this, but like an hour before, not to look at any blue screens.
Yep.
And this includes your TV, phone. I usually just read like a good hour before I go to sleep, and I love being a morning person. I've tried it. Comedy kind of can be a little challenging for me because it requires me to stay up late and travel a lot at night. But usually, most of the time, I try to get to bed at 9 o'clock, and I'm
Mm.
usually up 4:30, and I love just working out in the morning. Like that's my I love just like going to the gym at 5 in the morning and just having a good, nice workout first thing in the morning, and it kind of just engages like just I feel active throughout the day, but like having that nice long sleep and just like it's so important to have.
Yeah, that's that billionaire schedule, in bed at 9 and up at 4. And goals, goals, goals. But yes, sleep so sleep hygiene is something that we can work at. Now, I'm probably opposite. I'm a night owl. My circadian rhythm is set for late at night, and I know that about myself, and so I have to say, "Okay, RJ, like, go to bed, go to sleep. You've done enough for the day. Start fresh tomorrow." I have to, like, tell my brain to
Mhm.
turn off.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I'm thinking and overthinking, and I actually use an Aura Ring to track my sleep. I'm, like,
Mm.
hardcore about my sleep, and I make all of my sleep decisions based upon data.
I'm not familiar with an Aura Ring, so what exactly is that?
So it's Aura, Oura. It's like just like the watches and the sleep trackers, but just more advanced. It's a ring you wear, and it tracks, when I tell you, everything, like your heart rate. It predicts what's happening. It tells me how I recovered during the day. And one time, Barsky, it even told me to skip my workout. I was like,
Oh.
"Ooh, this is a winner! I love this." So, but in order for it to be beneficial, you have to actually use the data. Like, you can't just wear it and expect to have better sleep.
Mhm.
But all of my decisions are based on data.
And I've heard you talk about some other warning signs of burnout as like cynicism and loss of purpose. Is that correct?
Absolutely. So cynicism, feeling like what you do doesn't matter. Cynicism can show up as irritability. It can show up, especially if you're an executive in a company, it can show up as, these programs won't work. I don't know why they're bringing this speaker in. This is just run of the mill type thing. And believing that nothing will change or get better. It can show up as an entrepreneur, almost like, I don't really want to do this anymore. Like, is anybody listening? Hello, is this thing on? Kind of
Mhm.
thing. And the loss of purpose is probably, I would say, the most dangerous form of burnout or sign of burnout, when you believe that what you're doing doesn't matter, it doesn't make an impact at all.
So we were talking about the importance of sleep and how that's one way to prevent burnout, but are there some other ways you can recommend to help prevent burnout?
Yes, I would say eliminate multitasking. And so in our society, in the Western society, we work, 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 work. Like, it's just how we are. And we tend to think that the more work we do, the more productive we are. But our
Mhm.
brains and bodies aren't built like that. That's more like a factory mentality. And we've kept that factory mentality even now in this advanced technology age. And so we have old habits with new things, which means we really overwork. So instead of working from home, we're living at work. And it does not make us more productive. It just makes us more scattered. It makes us more exhausted. It increases our stress. And so, another way to prevent burnout is to use the phrase for yourself, done, what's next? So, complete a task first before you go on to the next thing. It takes a while to get used to that, but it's like, done, what's next? Done, what's next?
Mm.
Done, what's next?
Yesterday we were talking a little bit, and you mentioned about that you had a master class yesterday, which is something I wanted to discuss a little bit. with you today is like, what services do you offer during your masterclass?
So the masterclass is actually free. So as a psychologist, I feel this need, it's just part of who I am, to make sure that I'm offering something to the marketplace, to society. So it's a free masterclass. I give wellness tips, mental health tips, all sorts of things, just because I want to make sure that people have access. And then during the masterclass, if they're like, you know what, I really want to work with Dr. RJ, then I offer at the end. It's not selling, it's not hard selling. It's just like, okay, this is how you contact me. But the masterclass really is my way of giving back and offering something back to society instead of being in my clinical psychology ivory tower. I want to make sure that everyone has access to information.
So I saw a while back, I guess, and I could be wrong on this. The last masterclass you had was in April. It was called "How to Reset 2024 by Avoiding Time Wasting." Is that the last one, or is there another one coming up?
So I do them monthly. I just did one about sustaining wellness. And Barsky, that's the one I was telling you about where Zoom started acting crazy.
Okay.
And then I had to do it twice. And I'm like, oh my gosh. But anyhow, it was called Sustaining Wellness. So each masterclass, I'll give different types of tips, whether it's about
Okay.
productivity, whether it's about wellness, but actionable items, easy to implement tasks or strategies or tactics that anyone watching can use as soon as they get off the masterclass.
And these are like via Zoom only?
I think I'm going to start using a different platform. They're all social media though, and so it's generally, if you go to my Instagram, ask Dr. RJ, ASKDRRJ, and follow, then you'll get notifications on when the master classes will be.
Cool.
And they're monthly. They're not always the same date or time or whatever. It depends on how I compartmentalize my schedule. But they're monthly and they're useful. People seem to enjoy them.
I kind of want to just go back something you mentioned about like multitasking, and that was something earlier on too, especially when I was like, this was the old Barsky me or old Jay Barsky. I uh I was prideful at, like multitasking. That's something I guess worth bragging about, but yeah, multitasking people it can get exhausting when you just just focus on different things all at the same time, and you don't realize like you need to focus on one thing. At least when I want to say when I'm focusing on a craft or like even work, I need to focus on one thing at a time versus just doing different things. That's how you can get like make mistakes and errors on a lot of things.
Absolutely. And we're not wired to do a bunch of things at once. We can do a bunch of things, but that means nothing is done well. And when I do a task, I want it to be done well. I want to show up as the
Hmm.
best version of myself. I don't like half work, and not even in a perfectionistic kind of way, but more of just, I like my products to be high quality and good output. And if we're multitasking, we make mistakes, we look over things, nothing is really completed, and nothing is done to 100%
Hmm.
of accuracy, or I can't think of another word, but you get what I'm saying. Nothing
Yeah.
is done like to 100%.
Yeah. And like something else that you offer is that I don't know if you have, I believe you have multiple books out, but your newest book, from what I've seen, is called Executive Burnout. So, what is that about?
Yes. So I actually wrote Executive Burnout last summer while I was in Mexico, like during one of my times. And so I was able to concentrate, focus on one thing, and really just get all of my ideas out. Executive Burnout, 7 reasons why high performers crash and burn before they reach their full potential. It's really just to give everyone permission to relax a little bit, and to also offer strategies and ways on being productive, because I'm not like saying relax and slack off. I'm saying relax so that you can get more done.
Yeah.
And so it's for high performers to make sure that we actually have strategies to get things done without crashing and burning before we're able to do what it is we're called to do.
So, these 7 reasons, why are you able to? share what they are, or is that something they would have to people have to read the book to know about?
I love for them to read the book to know about. And actually, you know what? I'll give you a summary to give to your viewers, like a free sort of
Mhm.
visual. I'll give that to you, and that way they can get a highlight instead of having to go
Great.
directly to the book.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you have previous books, so what are your other previous books about?
My initial book about self care is called Stress Lives and Vacancy. It's for women who are super stressed out and need like a restart. It's more of a telling a story about my life type of book. The second book is called Overwhelmed, and that is a book for college students. And so it's about
Okay.
self care for college students. Let me tell you how this came about. So, when I work with executives, what I find is that they tend to they tend to pass along bad habits to their children. And I will work with a lot of people and they'll say, well, my child is in college and they're experiencing anxiety and stress and that sort of thing. And I'm like, well, they're mirroring what you've been doing. And
Mhm.
so I'm like, I need to be able to offer something to this age range. I don't work with college students, I only work with adults, but I wanted to offer something, a guidebook where they can prevent being like us, the burned out adults. They can prevent
Mhm.
that. So it's called
Yeah.
Overwhelm, and it's about self care.
No, that's awesome. And so you do one-on-one coaching with executives. So are you able to share some practices that you do with them?
Absolutely. So it's customized. Really, what we do is we do an assessment called a burnout assessment. The burnout assessment is an actual tool. You get a score, we go through it, and then we customize the therapy or the treatment or the coaching based upon the burnout score. So we look at anxiety, we look at depression, we look at stress, and then we look at overall burnout. Based upon those areas, we then customize a plan. For example, some of my clients require more hands on. So I may say, pull up your calendar on the screen and we'll go through and I'll say, well, you mentioned you were going to do this. It's not on your calendar. And I'll say, well, I was going to remember it. And I'm like, no, we don't want our brains to have to do any unnecessary work because
Hmm.
you want to show up as the best version of yourself. Put it on your calendar. And so we work on automations, we work on ways to increase productivity, we work on like not double scheduling. And then I also ask my clients to find 1 day a month of doing absolutely nothing. And you'd be surprised how tough this is for people.
Is there any literature that you usually recommend for your people that you do or your clients?
Yes. And so I'm really big on books. I read, or I should say, I listen to, because I do audiobooks. I listen to 2 books per month. I really love Patrick Lencioni. He has a series of books. So it's like Death by Meeting, and then he has the 6 Types of Working Genius, all types of things for executives. Those are my favorites because they're told in short story forms. They're also more like self development books, The Power of the Subconscious Mind, of course, The Alchemist, and all those things. And so when I'm recommending literature, it's usually in the form of a book that I've read in order to enhance from the inside out.
Thank you for sharing that. And something I saw just doing some research is that you have something called the Burnout Proof Bundle. So what is that?
Yes, the Burnout Proof Bundle. So my love language is gifts, right? And so I love to give away things, give out things. And so I created the Burnout Proof Bundle as a result of all of my clients' favorite resources. So my one-to-one clients, they have access to a portal and I just pile in resources so they can access them as needed. Well, the Burnout Proof Bundle is a combination, it's like the top 10 favorite things that my clients love, which helps them eliminate burnout. And that's definitely something that I can offer to your people as well.
And I saw that they could like text, like, is it, am I right? Have it all? Is that, you know,
Yes, they can text "Have It All" to 833-451-4258, and then they'll have the burnout proof bundle.
awesome. I'll share that in the notes too.
Okay.
And Dr. RJ, I would say you're really cool because you have some cool like hobbies from what I've seen. And I kind of want like something I ask my guests is trying to get to know them a little bit more. Is like, do you have any like special routines, rituals that you kind of like just follow throughout the day or the week?
Absolutely. So I am a routine girl. I like my structure. I like things to be in order. I like them to be predictable. And so my morning routine consists of writing in my journal. I don't pick up any electronics until at least 30 minutes into my day. So
Hmm.
I write in my journal, I take my vitamins, I drink water, and I do some reading. And so I do about 20 minutes of reading. I have a morning stack, is what I call it. And I do about 5 minutes in each book. These are devotionals and leadership qualities and tips and those sorts of things. Once I do my morning stack, then depending on the day, I may check my email, but usually I'll get my day started in my office, and then I'll check my email, and then I'll move forward with the day. So that's my morning time. I like to work out in the middle of the day because it allows me to recharge and have a boost. And so I've been fortunate enough to be able to create my schedule where I can work out with my trainer midday. Now, my nighttime routine, that's more challenging because, again, I'm a night owl. I have to turn off all electronics. I'll usually listen to an audiobook and really just try and wind down. I write in my journal twice a day, wind down, and then tell myself to go to sleep. I use sleep apps. So like
Hmm.
meditation apps, music, all of that to get a good night's rest. And then I start over again the next day.
You mentioned workout, and I think I saw something like you like to dance. You're big on like dancing, is that right? Like Zumba?
Yes. So I used to be a Zumba instructor,
Oh, okay.
pre-pandemic, just
Mm.
as an outlet, as something fun to do. I should probably get back into that. But I love to dance, and I also love to dance salsa, all types of things. I left my dancing shoes back in Atlanta. I was looking through my suitcase, and I'm like, oh, I left my dancing shoes. But I love to dance. I love to snorkel. I like all things water sports. I love to travel, like
Mm.
anytime and all time. Travel is my thing.
How about any practices that help motivate you that you may recommend for our listeners?
Yes, I would definitely say spend every day with some quiet time to yourself. And it can be 3 minutes, right? 3 minutes of time where you take a deep breath, you reflect. Of course, more than 3 minutes would be great, but 3 minutes will do it. I know that sounds like a short amount of time, but just breathing in, reflecting on the day, and making sure that you're journaling or keeping track of gratitude. That's something I recommend for everyone because we can get into our own head. The days go by so fast and we forget about the things that we've done well. We forget about the things that are going good around us. We forget
Mhm.
about how we've helped people. So, gratitude, a practice of gratitude every single day for 3 minutes is my secret sauce I'd like to share with others.
I love that secret sauce.
Yeah.
Dr. RJ, are you working on anything that our listeners should watch out for?
Oh, that's a great question. I keep getting this feel to write my next book about the art of balance. So I've created a framework called The Art of Balance, where I talk about authenticity, relentless rest, and time consciousness as a way to get back from burnout. So executive burnout is like, okay, how do you keep from crashing and burning? The art of balance is once I've figured out how to not crash and burn, how do I maintain balance in real life? So I'm feeling like I'm going to write a book about that very soon. Maybe while I'm here, I'll start writing.
Yeah, I'll definitely keep an eye out. I've been trying to focus more on like just having a balance on everything. I think I've before earlier, I was just trying to find ways to occupy myself, but now I find like so much ways to occupy myself that now I've just come to a point, okay, now I just need to have a comfortable balance. So I'll definitely hope to look at that book someday.
Yes, and often when I say balance, some people get triggered. They're like, "There's no such thing as work-life balance." People get really upset about that, and I'm
Mhm.
like, It's just semantics. You can call it work life flow. You can call it work life harmony. You can call it work life balance. You can call it work life integration. It's all the same thing. It's about finding a constant, it's about doing a constant calibration of your life so that you are living it in a way that meets your needs and also meets the needs of others that you love and care about and who trust you.
Awesome. And Dr. RJ, I just have one more question for you. Any final thoughts you want to leave with our listeners?
Oh, yes, absolutely. I would say that rest is productivity. There is such a stigma about rest. We falsely equate it to laziness, or we falsely equate it to letting somebody else get ahead. The early bird gets the worm and all these things. I will tell you from my neuroscience background that your brain needs rest, and you will run circles around your colleagues. If you're well rested, it will definitely increase your productivity. So rest is productivity.
I appreciate this conversation, Dr. RJ. It was nice. It was such an honor to have you and just on the program and just like share your wisdom and everything. But again, I appreciate this conversation and thank you for joining me on Someday with Jay Barsky.
It's been a pleasure. Thank you.
Thanks for listening to our episode with Dr. RJ Verwayne. Follow her on all her socials, which you may find in the episode notes. I hope you enjoyed our episode. Please rate and comment on the podcast to help make it grow. If you wish to follow me, all my socials are at I am Jay Barsky. Thanks for listening, and I'll see you soon.